Alright, this is Greg Weeks for the final sprint for Mecanum engine, and this is going to be video 2. So I'm going to go over the main engine class, the asset managers, and the time manager. So this is the main engine class header file over here. So it's pretty convoluted with all these comments that I'm using for documentation. So it might actually be easier just to look at the .cpp because all of this is kind of unruly, unless you want to go ahead and just read all of those comments. Yeah, so I've got public methods to access the window height, the width, to run the game, load resources, initialize, set background color, set window width and height, and set the window name. So everything else is going to be private. So the update, draw, unload content, of course, and all that good stuff. Great. So in the game initialize here, we're just setting the window. And in load resources, we're going to go ahead and, surprise, load all the resources. So we're calling the model manager, texture manager, shader manager, and image manager. Alright. Load content just calls load resources. And then it initializes the scene manager. So we've got the time manager attorney calling process time here, and the update scene manager, which is going to drop down to the game objects themselves through the scenes. So we've got the draw, which is doing the same thing. All of our accessor functions here. And then in unload content, finally, we're going through all of our, whatchamacallit, geez, it's so late, I forgot the name, the asset managers, the time manager and the scene manager, and we're deleting all of the data in those. Okay. Yeah, unload content is pretty much the same as terminate, so that's kind of redundant. But yeah, cool. That's what we're doing here. Let's move on to the asset managers themselves. Make sure I'm still recording. Okay. Alright. Let's start off with the model manager. Yeah, so right off the bat, I do have these default model collections here. Well, they're default models rather, not default model collections. So we've just got unit square, unit box, unit sphere. So that's being used for drawing of sprites and drawing of the B sphere there. Okay, so model manager.h, setting the default path here. So this is also documented because the user has access to these. Let's see. Yeah, so we have load and get for everything here, and then we're going through an attorney to delete them in the actual engine here. Okay, let's get rid of that so it's easier to see. Okay, yeah, so model manager attorney, model manager.h, and then here we're loading the model. Some stuff I removed. This was pretty early on, removing these things. So terminate actually goes through and erases everything from the model collection, deletes the pointer instance. Okay. This is redundant. I hope I'm not calling this. Yeah. Yeah, I am calling terminate, so it's actually walking through and getting rid of everything. I'm not calling delete because I call terminate through the manager, or the attorneys rather. So let's see. Oof. I guess I'm not. Okay. Let's see. Let's just change that real quick and see if anything explodes. Alright, game's running. Let's just exit out of it. Alright, great. Nothing exploded. Yeah, so that was a redundant call there. But either way, that should be clearing up memory. I shouldn't be calling clear. Yeah. Alright, sorry, I didn't want to go ahead and redo this video just because I didn't call that one function there. Yeah, honestly, the model manager got a little bit convoluted here because it was something that I created at the very beginning. And I just kept adding to it, so yeah, there's a bit of redundancy here. But yeah, that should be resolved. Okay. Yeah, and all the other turnies are calling terminate. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, it's pretty much the same deal for the rest of them. So we've got the image manager. We've got load and get image. The image manager is actually calling the texture manager to get the texture key because the image manager needs the texture manager. Just make sure this attorney is also calling terminate. There we go, terminate. Yeah, so this is all pretty straightforward. Pretty much everything works exactly like the model manager. The camera manager. Is that later? Are we going to get to that later, or should I do that now? Let's see. Yeah, I guess I should do that now. Alright, camera manager. So set up the perspective camera. So this is just going to be your default camera. I've also got the orthographic camera for drawing sprites, follow camera, and the God camera. Yeah, so I'm actually updating the God camera and the follow camera through the camera manager. So here we're calling follow game object and updating the God camera here. I'm not doing the same for the orthographic camera. So with the orthographic camera, I'm just setting, I'm actually just updating that at the scene level, and the scene updates whatever the current camera is. So when I'm swapping between all of our 3D cameras, it's actually just updating that single camera. Cool. So that's why the orthographic camera just updates constantly with everything else. Let's see. Some camera manager documentation here. Just explaining what each call does in terms of like laying out all of these different cameras that we have going on here. Yeah, and that'll be much clearer when we get to documentation. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty self-explanatory, and you can see that working in the game itself. So if you go over to the next scene here, we have the orthographic camera that is drawing this sprite here, and we've got the God camera. It's the one that you start off with, and then if I hit F, we've got the follow camera, and the only thing I'm missing is the default camera, but I'm sure you've seen quite enough of the default camera. Just gonna exit out of that. Alright, this video has gone on for long enough, and I've had enough awkward pauses, so I guess we will get to the time manager in the next